Projectsam has just released Lineage Percussion. It's a direct follow-up to their original percussion library called True Strike, and I'm super excited to take a look at it today with you. So without further ado, let's jump into the website and have a quick look at the details. So here we are on the sales page for Lineage Percussion, and basically the heading they give us right away is masterfully dynamic and exquisitely detailed. And if you're familiar with the Symphobia series, you already know what to expect from the sound quality. I've always found the Projectsam libraries very detailed, very crisp in terms of the sound detail, so definitely lives up there. And then the dynamics is something else that they also really stressed, just the number of dynamic layers they sampled. So we'll take a look at that in just a minute. And then here they say the last word in orchestral percussion libraries with over 70 instruments plus kits, stage positioning, and full sampling depth. And then they tell us a little bit more about it here, everything they've learned from their percussion and sampling endeavors throughout the decades, and they give us a few of the features here. So with that being said, let's actually dive into Logic and we'll have a listen to the samples. All right, so before I start playing the individual patches that I've loaded up, I just accidentally played them all at the same time, and it sounds really cool, actually. It kind of sounds like this. Right, so obviously that's not a kit, it's just all the sounds played at the same time that I've loaded in, but it just sounded pretty cool. Just to quickly show you here, it's a contact player library loading up in the library's pane here, as you can see with the graphic. And if we take a look at the folder structure, we have the instruments, which are all the individual instruments that they sampled, all the way from Anvils down to the Xylophone. We're going to demonstrate some of them here, not all of them, because that would take a long time, but just some of the favorites that I kind of picked out here. Then the second folder, we have kits, which are construction kits containing multiple instruments within the same patch. So we'll take a look at that as well. We have basic orchestral kits, a drum kit, hits and rolls, stuff like that, melodic, octaves as well, and shimmers for the melodic instruments. And then finally, we can build our own kit, which is really cool. So build it with non-tonal drums or melodic percussion, okay? So to kick things off, let's start with the Anvil, okay? Let's have a listen to the instrument, play through it a little bit, and then we'll kind of share our impressions. So here is the Anvil. All right, so we have the drumstick and the hard mallets, two different sets of samples. And this little graphic right here is really cool because you can actually drag the samples to really any microphone position you want, whether that's panning left or right or pulling it closer or further back. This really reminds me a lot of Damage 2 from Heaviosity. That's that very similar sort of mic dragging system. And so this is just a really easy way, very visual way to set up your own custom mic mix. And if you don't want to do that, then you can do it right here in the custom mix, dial in the close, stage, and far as much as you want. And if you just want the simplest option, then just go with the pre-mixed option and load it out of the box. They give you a pretty central sound directly in the middle of the stage. Right, so the pre-mixed version is basically meant to get you up and running right away. Gives you a nice sound of the detail of the instrument, but also the hull surrounding it as well. So just a nice balance overall. Then of course you can fiddle with the mapping if you want to move the range of the instrument up or down, and then tweak the settings as well. And then a few things like volume filter, reverb, and limiter if you want to do that as well. Add some compression. So overall, it's a pretty simple interface. For me, pretty easy to look at, and that's something I enjoy in sample libraries. Let's move on to the Celesta. So this is what it sounds like. Yeah, so the ability to get such a close, detailed sound, that close mic especially really surprised me with how nice it sounded and how intimate it sounds without all the hull interfering. And then with all the way back, you can really hear the detail kind of being washed out. You hear more of the reverb from the instrument kind of surrounding us there. So it's pretty cool. Again, very reminiscent of the Heaviosity technology. But look, when you're releasing a library um, that's relatively saturated in that sort of market, like there's a ton of percussion libraries on the market, right? You're bound to want to put something innovative into the market as well with that library. And I think this is a cool little touch. Again, it's been done before, but it's always a nice feature to make your library easier to work with. Okay, let's move on to the cowbell set. Again, we're still playing with the single instruments here. These are the cowbells, so. Yeah, so we have drumsticks and soft mallets there. And again, you basically have the same features of mapping and, doing the XY positioning as much as you want. Now, this one's kind of cool because they give you multiple instruments in this patch, right? You have 4 types of cowbells and you can switch between ones as you see fit. But yeah, it really is up to you which ones you want to load in there. I also kind of like how they give us the graphic of the keyboard and they show us, the highlights of where the instruments are actually located. Not necessarily that important because in your context window you actually see that anyway, like it's lit up already, but just cool to have on the side. Okay, Piatti, let's hear these cymbals. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. We get the individual hits, basically one hit, but I believe there's like multiple round robins as well. As you can see, there's like 3 there. And we get the effects on the other side up an octave. So pretty simple patch, right? Just those 2 samples, if you will, or 2 types of articulations. And that's it for this one. But again, there's multiple types of Piatti here as well. So if we take a look in the folder, we have Piatti 1, Piatti 2, and then a lot of these instruments also come with a set or an ensemble patch as well. So the rototoms, for example, there's 4 individual ones, but then there's a set, I believe, of all 4. All right, let's have a listen to the Sleighbells. Always a nice bonus if you're trying to write Christmas tracks, an absolute must. And there you can hear the tremolo or the roll was being controlled by the mod wheel in terms of the dynamics and the frequency of playing. So yeah, nice little pure sound there. It would have been cool if they had some additional Sleighbells as well. Like they have 2 sets here, I think, but maybe if they had more of them within the one patch, that could have been cool too. Just for more variety, right? Okay, now we have the snare drum ensemble 1. Let's have a listen. All right, so here is our first instance of the adaptive sync. And this technology is exclusive to Projectsam. I believe they came up with this for Pandora, which is the fourth volume in their Symphobia series. So the way this essentially works is you have multiple varieties of functions that you can use to line up these rolls or tremolos to your grid in your DAW. So what you can do is, like, if you're playing a piece of music and you want to start the sample or the roll in the middle of the bar, somewhere undetermined, let's say, but you want that end of the roll to land on the downbeat of the next bar, then you would select downbeat. If you want it to count as a certain number of beats, then you could do that here as well. Let's say we want 2 beats long for the roll. So that's 2 beats. Let's extend it to 4 beats. So it should be twice as long. Right, let's do it a little bit longer, 6 beats. Right, so it's pretty flexible and it sounds really realistic as well. Of course, it's tempo synced to your DAW, so the number of beats, of course, is mapped to the relative tempo that you're working with as well. If you don't want that at all, then you can just go a second. So you can hear 1 second long. You can do, let's say, 3 seconds long. Right, that's a little bit longer than 3 seconds, but you get the idea. So it's really, really flexible, but I tend to just select downbeat because generally in an arrangement, I will know where I want my roll to start, even though it might not be 100% quantized. I'll just play it where I see fit. And then of course I want the downbeat of the next bar to line up with the end of that roll. It might be an accent or some sort of crash or a climax. That's usually the thing I will select there. So yeah, I rarely used adaptive sync in Pandora. I really use that library at all, actually, for my type of music. But if I'm using this library a bit more, especially for these roles, I think I could definitely see myself using adaptive sync for these situations. Okay, let's hear these tubular bells here. Yeah, so very clean sound, and this definitely reminds me of Cineperc in a lot of ways. This library as a whole, actually, there's a lot of overlap with Cineperc, and I could do a dedicated video comparing the two at a certain point. You can see I've put them right next to each other, so just let me know if you'd be interested in that. But yeah, overall, the sound quality is beautiful in both libraries, and this one just has some of the additional functionality with the adaptive sync and the staging, right? But Cineperc is more deeply sampled in many ways as well. So just different libraries for different things. Let's hear the xylophone here. I'm going to save the timpani for last, by the way, in terms of these individual instruments, but let's hear the xylophone. Right, so pretty much every instrument comes with the ability to drag and drop or drag around the positioning for your instruments. Fairly cool. All right, let's hear the timpani here. So let me just play the single hits first, and then we'll play around with some of the rolls as well. Yeah, so really nice sound. The one thing I'm missing is I would love that C as well. There's the samples here, the hits start on a D, but I would have loved it to start on C. And I believe Cineperk's timpani also starts on a C. So even having that C sharp, that would cover so much more music, in my opinion. But aside from that, really similar to Cineperk in many ways. I do like they have the roll and the tremolo in the same patch. So the tremolo basically is the roll, but you can control it yourself using the mod wheel for the dynamic. And then for the roll, of course, that brings in the adaptive sync. So whatever you want to do, if you want a more natural performance, then going with the adaptive sync would work. But tremolo, where you can control it yourself on the mod wheel, gives you a bit more flexibility. And of course, they give you some effects here as well, which I think Cineperk does as well, but I can't quite remember at the top of my head. All right, let's move on quickly here to the kits. So they come with a number of them, as we already mentioned. Let's hear the basic orchestral kit, and it has a multitude of these different instruments. Here you can see snare drum, grancasa, tom-tom, and if you want to take a look at those details individually, you can certainly do that. Or we can just click here on the interface and then map them around as we want. But anyway, let's have a listen to these instruments over here. Yeah, so the main idea here is that you have multiple instruments, but what's really cool is you can map these instruments however you want on the stage as well. So for example, I mapped the tom-tom really far back so it gets that big hall sound, but then we put this triangle really, really close so it sounds way more intimate. So in that case, you can imagine an ensemble of people, you know, with one person standing super far back and then one person really close to you. It's literally a very visual way of doing things. And then again, you can tweak the custom mix as well here as well. I think this is for the panning. So yeah, but in terms of the mic positions, they give you pre-mix and then close, stage, and far. So they don't overwhelm you with too many mic positions to choose from. It's just nice to have that bit of flexibility as well. Let's hear the other kit here that I pulled in, Melodic octaves, bringing in more of the tonal instruments. Okay, yeah, so also keep in mind that all of these volumes of the patches are the default out-of-the-box volume. So I didn't tweak the contact volume for any of these. Everything that you're hearing is straight out of the box. So some of the patches tend to be a little bit louder than others. So just keep that in mind as you go through this. Make sure you adjust accordingly for your mix. Okay, then we have one more kit that I pulled in called this True Strike kit, lots of drums. So let's have a quick listen to this one. Yeah, there we go. So pretty similar to the basic orchestral kit, but with a lot more of those, you know, Brazilian sort of instruments in there as well. Pretty cool. All right, then the last patch we have here, that we'll share in this video is the kit builder. So there's the kit builder and the melodic builder. The kit builder is more of the atonal drums. Melodic builder, of course, are the more melodic stuff with tonal elements and pitches. So yeah, the way the patch shows up is basically just like this. It's very bare. So on the top right, you would click plus, then you would choose your type of drum and then choose the type to load in. So it's very simple. For example, let's say we want to load in a cymbal. We click that. And basically it gives us these samples. And again, we can always go in and change with the range of those samples, but let's just keep it where it is. So this is the cymbal. And then with the effects there, of course. But let's say we want to also add in a snare drum. So let's choose snare drum number 1. And you can see they're mapped basically up an octave from the effects here. So now you get them both, and they show up here on the same interface with the XY stage. So of course you can map one closer than the other, however you want to do that. One more left, one more right. Let's try one more here. Let's add in, like, let's say a wood block, and that goes up an octave there. Yeah, and the fact that you can adjust the ranges is always a great idea, I think, but it just gives you that flexibility. If you want to build your own patches and then save them for the future when you're creating your own percussion arrangements, you can do that here as well. So overall, very, very cool little library. It's definitely marketed as a more comprehensive library with the number of instruments they sampled. I like the flexibility that they give us with, the adaptive sync, of course. That's a really cool feature. And then, of course, the mic dragging feature and option. That's always really nice to have that flexibility. But I do think Cineperc is still a little bit more deeply sampled from what I can remember. But this gives a nice alternative color for sure. I do really like Cineperc just because it's like I'm really used to the MGM scoring stage sound, but this one feels a tad brighter, if you will, a little bit more controlled in terms of the sound, not quite as open. It definitely allows you to feel the detail of the sound a little bit more, which I do enjoy. So just a slightly alternative color, but it's nice to have, these different options at your disposal if you really want them or need them. So there we go. Big thanks to Projectsam for sharing a copy with me. Again, this is the pro version of the library, by the way. They give the option to purchase a core version and a pro version. The core version is about half the price, I believe, of pro, but core does not give you the XY stage. So they only give you the pre-mixed option, the mic position, which is pretty good for most situations anyway, right? If you want that utmost flexibility, that's where you would use the XY stage. And then I believe core also gives you fewer instruments. I'm not sure about fewer articulations, but definitely fewer instruments and the lack of the XY stage dragging. I think that's the biggest thing. And yeah, less samples overall. But yeah, you can kind of choose what works for you. This is the pro version though with the maximum flexibility. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it. If you want to check out my full sample library buyer's guide, the tools that I would use on a regular basis for my music, then you can download that using the first link in the description box below. It's completely free and it's a condensed PDF guide sharing all my personal recommendations plus the pricing so you know how much each library costs. And I also included some of the utility as well, so you know how to use each library, or at least how I would use each library if you care about that. Again, you can grab it as a buyer's guide down below. If you are curious about my thoughts on Cineperc, the orchestral library, percussion library that I use on a regular basis, then check out this video right here. I did a complete overview of that library so you can kind of see what's included, how it all sounds, and you can make up your own mind regarding which library you personally prefer. I'll see you there.